Greetings, Algo artisans. Bitcoin to the moon?
To the moon!
Maybe. Today's video is called Bitcoin to 170K in 2025, and it's a Bitcoin price prediction live analysis. Before we get too deep into this, please like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, follow me on X. All that helps us get more content out to you. So there was an article in CoinDesk today, and it's regarding a calculation done by Anthony Scaramucci, and he doesn't exactly say what his calculation is, but he is the Skybridge Capital founder, and basically he feels that Bitcoin is going to soar to at least 170,000 after the halving in April, and he thinks it's about an 18-month lead up to that. And so he doesn't say what his math is, but he starts with a $35,000 Bitcoin in April during the halving, and that leads him to 170,000. Now he does say that if we're at 50,000 in April, then that's a $200,000 handle, right? Says if we're at 60, that takes us to a $240,000 handle. So he does feel, as far as a long-term price target, Scaramucci predicts Bitcoin could easily reach half of the market capitalization of gold, which would bring the price of one coin up to roughly 400,000. Okay, so that's one calculation that we are not familiar with. So I went ahead and I just decided to do some basic calculation, right? Some simple, regular old chart math type stuff, just to see if I could pull some data off myself. And I've done this before, so I kind of knew what to do. Now I don't think this number is going to be correct, but I'm going to show you what I did. This is a map of the halvings. Each yellow line here is the prior halvings, and then this last yellow line is the halving. I just put it in April. This is a monthly chart. This is Bitcoin going back to the beginning, and it's a log chart, right? So each of these numbers on the right kind of increase at a much, much faster rate. A regular Bitcoin chart without the log doesn't look like this. Okay, so this is a different story altogether. Now there is a further look that we're going to see later in the video from Andrei Jikh that actually uses what's called a log chart that will not only put the y-axis into log, but put the x-axis into log as well. And I'm not going to explain all of that, but for you math heads, you know what I'm talking about, right? It actually makes things pretty linear. So going back to this basic log chart, this basic calculation that anybody can do, I went ahead and I took a look at the bottom, the prior bottom from when, Bitcoin moved after its first halving, right? So it bottomed out, I should say, at 192 or so, about $2 more or less, right? And then it topped after that at $1,200. Let me delete some of these other items. Okay, so we had a 60,000% move up. So that's what that was, right? For that first halving, the bottom after that halving to the top after that halving was a 62,000% move up. Now the next halving was in October of 16. Bottom before that halving was at 158.60. The top after the halving was at 19,500 or so. We were all a lot of us were present for that. And that was a 12,000% move up. Now the bottom after that halving was in about $3,000, about $3,100 or so. And the top after that halving was the last cycle top, which was at 69,000, and that's about a $2,000% move. So the first move up was a 60,000%. The next move up was a 12,000%. So this was divided by 5, right? Percentile wise, the move up is moved up at about a fifth of what it was before. And then you have 12,000 going to 2,000, and that's actually a sixth. So it's slowing down even a little bit more, but we'll just take it down just to keep the numbers kind of easy to look at. We're going to say it's divided by 6, maybe 6.5, we'll say, just to keep it really, really simple. So instead of a 2,100% move up, we'll divide that by 6.5, and we will get, 2,100 divided by 6.5. We'll say we get a 320% move up. Now, that isn't very big, right? So from the bottom to the next top, 320% is not very big. That is like, 15,373. You're talking about $50,000. So the percent move up here is decaying at a rate that I don't know if we can trust this math, because a lot of people are confident we're going to see a higher high than last time. So immediately having a high at about 50,000, that puts the next high at 50. We've already touched that. To believe that math means that we've already seen the cycle high, and I just don't believe that's the case. So this model, the way I've done it, is not working, right? I don't think that's the case. If it is, that would be a rude awakening for a lot of people, because a lot of analysts are seeing beyond that. As a matter of fact, there are many models that are a bit more complex than this that are actually, like I said, converging on a similar price. So let's move over to the stock to flow model, which was really popular in the last move up, right? There's the stock to flow, there's the rainbow chart. We'll look at all these. Now, the stock to flow is kind of like, it's like looking at a stock similar to some of the metrics in that. I think it's kind of similar to P&E, and stock to flow has the current fair price at about 50 grand. And that is prior to the halving. And that's not too far from where price is right now. And as the halving occurs, all the way through 2025, fair price, in June of 2025 is at about 440,000 according to stock to flow. And if you look at it here, the stock to flow, if you look at the actual Bitcoin price, as it heads up, the peaks are less and less strong. And the peaks are less and less likely to break higher from the stock to flow. But even if it stays touching the stock to flow, you're still looking at a $400,000 Bitcoin, right? So are we going to see a new paradigm, or at least a decay that's maybe a little bit stronger than what we've seen so far, where it only goes halfway there? Or maybe it's an even decay. And we actually have a model later in this video that talks about decay, but it's not stock to flow. It's a different model. And we're actually going to take a look at what that is. So let's move on. We have next the old rainbow chart. Everybody used to look at that. And basically this is a chart where you will see Bitcoin kind of be a real strong buy as it hits the bottom of the rainbow chart. And as it hits the top of the rainbow chart, it's kind of a sell. And each year has gone less and less severely up to the top. So again, we are seeing that kind of a decay. And right now, Bitcoin is quote unquote still cheap according to this rainbow chart. Now, what I don't understand is the math behind the rainbow chart. And I'm sure that if you were to go to the blockchaincenter.net, they would explain the math behind the rainbow chart. But at this point, it's kind of similar to stock to flow. And the next FOMO period, if it were to even reach that height, would be something like 200,000. And that kind of makes sense. Let's see, right after the halving. So somewhere along this period right here, and you're looking at the mid to high 100,000s, maybe 150, maybe 190. So that does actually kind of converge. And the stock to flow, given that the decay doesn't allow price to make it all the way up to the stock to flow, then of course we're also looking at a similar number. So let's move on to the bit more, the more complex number here. This is going to be what's called the power model. And the power model is something that you'll see over on, it's Giovanni 350-84111. And this is actually out of a video by Andrei Jikh. And I'm going to put this video up right now. And then the link to Giovanni, who does the math on this, and the link to Andrei Jikh video are both going to be in the description for this, so you can watch this for yourself. And you will see that the number does converge again on that same kind of area of around 150, 170,000. So let's watch that now.
Based on what this graph is showing us on a log scale, yes, what will Bitcoin's peak be at the next cycle?
So this is the next peak, right? So here, so I will say close to 200, close to 200. Let's take the worst case scenario that it continues to do this mathematical trend. The peaks are on an exponential decay, so you can calculate what will be the next peak based on that. At least 150,000. So I'm pretty sure of it.
And that's in what year?
Middle of 2025.
So again, I'm thinking that this is quite possible, but one thing that these models are not necessarily accounting for are how the ETF might factor in. So we're seeing a lot of adoption. And at the same time as a lot of adoption, what we're not seeing is people wanting to actually buy Bitcoin itself. Now, the argument for a spot ETF, we've done a lot of videos on this, and the argument is that they have to buy the Bitcoin to actually have, people purchase the ETF. So in a sense, you still have to own the Bitcoin behind the spot ETF. So technically you have to buy the Bitcoin. Well, there are some issues behind that may dilute the amount of Bitcoin that needs to be bought. There are a lot of people talking about rehypothecation, which is basically where stocks are kind of multiplied over and over again to go between brokers. And it was done as a solution to a computer problem, maybe 20 or 10 years ago, but they never undid it. So there are a lot of reasons why perhaps Bitcoin might be a bit diluted, and we may not see price go as high as that just because of the way that ETFs are managed and ran financially. And then there, of course, are reasons why it may go way beyond that too, right? We might have just adoption around the world outside of large amounts of American and maybe European and certain areas in Asia money going into Bitcoin. Nothing really is set, but these models are decently reliable so far, right? We have some divergence from the models, but in the end, they've been relatively correct so far. So for the moment, I think that 150, 170K is a reasonable number. It's always possible that it doesn't make it that high, or if it does peak out that high, it may come back down and, reach a number around 100,000 or 80 or whatever that number is, right? So nothing stays similar all the time. But one thing that has happened is that Bitcoin volatility has dropped over time. And in a sense, that's good because that means that more people are likely to use it as a currency. So I hope this video was helpful. Please come over to www.algofactory.tech, ask questions, come to our live shows. We do a live show every weekday, 8:30 a.m. to 9 EST. We'll be happy to do charts for you. Either way, trade your job, upgrade your life. We'll see you there. All right, hope you enjoyed the show. Please like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. On the screen there you can see our website, algofactory.tech. Tap that QR code to take us straight there. I'm also very active on X. That's algo_factory777. We got TikTok and Rumble. In the meantime, we hope to see you over at the website. Come on over, trade your job, upgrade your life. We'll see you there.